Hello everyone. Let's talk about the evolution of warfare. Wars have been evolved uh, since a long time, and wars have been evolving since a long time, and we have seen different generations of war. If we consider the present scenario, then India and almost every country uses a mixture of all the warfare generations of warfare. So let us talk about them one by one. So we are considering six generations of warfare. Uh, um, Considering generation one, first generation warfare is all about the very primitive kind of wars. We see manpower, we see animals fighting with swords, and two armies just attacking on each other blindly and fighting, and blood all um, the bloodshed is there. So that is the first generation warfare. It was used uh, many centuries ago. If we talk about India, then prior to 16th century, this war was more prevalent. But in the 16th century, when Babur invaded India, then there was introduction of technology. The introduction of technology to the warfare started. So here we move on to the second generation warfare. Second generation warfare included technology. It included cannons. It included guns. The gunpowder was used heavily. This was second generation warfare. Vehicles were used. Animals were used with weaponry, archery. All these things came into their being in the second generation warfare. And even today, we see that second generation warfare is prevalent. Mm. India keeps its army. India keeps its infantry. Uh, all the countries do. So second generation warfare is still prevalent on a large scale. And now we move on to the third generation warfare. Third generation warfare included strategy. It included intelligence. We can see that in today's world, if we talk about the last 1 or 1.5 century, the importance of intelligence agency has been has been proven by the operations and by the incidents that occurred. We see that India have RAW, US have its CIA, Israel's Mossad. These are all example of intelligence agencies, and strategy has been a great part of the third generation warfare. And even today, strategies are important. In India, we still talk about the warfare strategies. We are going to inculcate the integrated theater command, which which are going to strategize the warfare, and which are in the direction of strategizing better. And so strategy is very important, and strategy has always been there in the warfare. And yes If we move on to the next generation, the fourth generation warfare, then it is about it is major it is vaguely, if we talk about it, it's about terrorism. That no two national armies are directly involved, but the third party, that are the terrorist groups or the militant groups, they involved in this warfare. Like, for example, the most common and understandable example can be that Pakistan is considered to be a heaven for terrorist groups, and the terrorist groups which are trained there and inculcated their attacks on India. So the Pakistani army is itself not involving itself in warfare with India, but the terrorist groups that are indirectly trained by the Pakistani army, and which are present on Pakistan's land, attacks India by some terrorist attack. If you see the Mumbai incident, and many other incidents are also there. So this was an example, and it is also a widespread kind of warfare that is still prevalent. We can see in the Middle East a lot of terrorist groups are there. The Israel-Palestine issue is completely based on it, as Palestine have many small militant groups which try to attack on Israel's land, and that issue is really big. We see some confrontation last year. So yes, fourth generation warfare is also still prevalent on a large scale in the modern world. If we talk about the fifth generation warfare, the fifth generation warfare came into its being more dominantly from, we can say, the last 50 years. After the World War II, we can see its imprint and its implications. Cold War was a type of ideological war, the fifth generation war. So fifth generation war is all about ideological warfare, and and it and it's no kinetic means are used, but the ideology is used. We can see even today that the that China wants to impose the China wants to impose its one party system all over the world. If we see that many of the many of the media houses are um, China invests a lot of money in many of the media houses. Why? Because they want to circulate the news about the Chinese dominance, and about the merits of one party system. So that is a kind of ideological warfare. It happens all over the world. If we talk about India scenario, that then I think India has not invested itself more in this fifth generation warfare. India needs to, I think, because we do not publicize the things that are positive sides. If we talk that recently India captured many of the ISIS trained academy, ISI trained ISI trained terrorists in Kashmir, but we didn't raise that issue on various forums. So that is a that is an indication that India is not using the ideological dominance all over the world. It should, I think, uh, it should dominantly publicize these kinds of incidents, and make its soft power strong. If we see all over the world, the soft power index is a thing that is considerable when it comes to business and trade, all of that thing. Like Japan, Germany, USA, these countries have a lot of soft power, so that is really helpful when in almost all the aspects uh, of trade and everything almost. So yes, fifth generation warfare is started, and it is going to stay here for a long time, I think. Next comes the sixth generation warfare. So this is a really the newest member of this whole series. Sixth generation warfare, we can say, has started in the last 2 decades, and more extensively in the last 1 decade. So sixth generation warfare is about data. It's about storing data. It's about collecting it. It's about using it ethically or unethically. For example, we can say that we talk about the privacy. Uh, Google stores very large amount of data. Everything we do, everything, whe- wherever we go, whatever we eat, everything Google knows. So it can use this data in constructive manner, like like a recommendation. We can see that in all the social media websites or any web page, the recommendation are very accurate these days. And also it can use in a very unethical way, that we can see, and that when in 2016 elections, US presidency elections, Donald Trump the Donald Trump government was accused that they used the data and advertised. So that was an unethical way of using data, because it gives a very unethical kind of advantage to one party, and that really pulls down the spirit of democracy. So the a sixth generation warfare is a double edged sword, I think. And but it is going to it has just started out. The data warfare has just started out, and it is going to stay here for a really long time. It has a very interesting future, because we don't know what happens next, because these things have just started out. A lot more is there. 5G is going to be introduced in a few years, and it has also started to some extent. And data warfare is a long term game, I think. And mm, majority of the MNCs and some extremist countries like China is focusing a lot on the data warfare, and many cyber crimes are also there by some countries. And and data is very useful. And data is hence very vulnerable, and it should be secured. So that was all about the generation of warfares. And if we talk that which if we talk about all of them combined, then in the modern world we use every one of them. Each one of them is used by nations to small or large extent. Each one have their own future. As we move on to the newer generation, their future is more brighter, and they are going to stay here for a long time. Thank you very much.